Okay, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to the Protection and Management Series Exhibitor Day for 2015. 2015 being our second year here at Excel, so a very warm welcome to Excel. To all of you, let me just talk you through today's agenda. We've got a packed agenda, so we'll make sure we keep to time. First up, I'm just going to give you a quick review of 2014, but then talk you through some of our plans for 2015. Then we have some external speakers, then we have Ruth Galpine, who's going to talk you through the visitor marketing campaign and what's new with our visitor marketing. We've then got a series of external speakers. We've got Simon Nowdy and Lee Timms who are going to give you some tips on how to exhibit more effectively. We've then got Matt Coyne from N200 who's going to talk you through how to maximise, a few more coming in, how to maximise your ROI through lead capture, so using apps or light pens and how they can be beneficial for when you're exhibiting. Jeremy Rees is here to then give you an update on Excel, an update on the venue and what's new on the venue. Here he is on time. And then I'll wrap up and talk you through the workshops. I won't go into the details of the workshops now, but after the coffee break, you've got a chance to kind of pick and choose which workshops you want to go to. But I'll talk through those after the coffee break. So there'll be a coffee break at 3 o'clock. So I'll just start off with the highlights. I think ultimately, from the move from the NEC down to London, we successfully moved a very large and complex series. So overall, we were pleased with the results, as were the exhibitors and visitors. We had the largest number of exhibitors we've ever achieved at the P&M series last year with 1,400 exhibitors, which was 5% up on the year before. We hit the 40,000 visitor mark for the first time ever. We had an increased number of high budget holders, which we expected as part of the research, but so anyone with a spend of over 5 million, we got a 10% increase. We had over 400 hours of education with nearly 6,000 attendees attending our seminar theatres. We had a massive focus on the visitor experience, on all our visitor NPS scores, which is a measure of how satisfied they were with the show, all improved year on year. And of course we had the new Showmaker initiatives. And finally we had a number of features and seminars that we introduced in 2014. So that was a kind of 2014 highlights. But actually, as soon as we came offside, what we were keen to do is to work out how can we improve. And I won't go through the detail of this, but this just gives you a flavour of a typical methodology we use at UBM to improve our events. So we run a number of workshops, which some of you may have been involved in. We do a lot of visitor calls to all our visitor audience to find out what their needs are. We do fusion research, we do separate visitor research calls, we do validation workshops, all sorts of things to make sure we understand what our audience wants for the next year and where we can improve. And I would say our areas for improvement kind of summarise into 3 main areas. So venue, us as organisers in terms of UBM, and then visitors. So firstly, if we just talk about us as UBM, I think the thing that probably came out the most was around operations. As I say, moving a series from the NEC to London was a complex beast. But if we're honest, we got some things right with operations, but we got some things wrong. And I know that's a lot of the feedback we've had from exhibitors, and I'll talk you through in the next slide how we're going to address that. There was a general feeling that we need to improve the identity of each brand within the show, and I'll talk through how we're going to do that later on. And we have to improve navigation around the venue. And there's also feedback that we need to improve our show app, and again, I'll talk you through that later on. On visitors, there's an acceptance that even though we got an increase in visitors, we want more. Some of the shows had higher density than others. And in particular, we probably had an issue with some of the visitor flow to make sure the visitors were flowing all around the show. I'll explain later on how we're going to address that. There's a need for us to keep our content fresh and up to date. There's a thirst for innovation across the series, and I'll show you how we're going to address that in 2015. And we want to make sure we improve the crossover between the various brands. On the venue, I'm repeating signage and logistics. That's because we obviously will have to work hand in hand with the venue to make sure we improve that. But in particular, most of the feedback around the venue was around catering and the cost of hotels. And when Jeremy comes up later on, he'll cover those 2 items specifically, just to show you how we're addressing those. So just in terms of logistics, what are we going to do to improve operations on site? This is really divided into 2 main areas. What are we doing as UBM, as organisers? And then what are we doing to work with our contractors, in particular GES? So first of all, for UBM, we have restructured our operations team. Kerry Kemp is now head of operations for the P&M series, and we've invested heavily in the number of people working in operations across the series. And in fact, each brand, so whichever brand you're from today, has their own mini operations team. So we've invested very heavily on resource. We now have a dedicated operations email and customer hotline. So if any of you need to get in touch with us, we have a line that's operated all the time for you to get in touch with us. We'll have much more visibility on site from UBM staff. And allied to that, the showmakers that we use to help with our visitors during the show will be coming a day early. So the very last day of build, we'll be flooding the show with both UBM staff and showmakers. So when you've got those last-minute urgent problems, there'll be a UBM person around to make sure we can help you. Now, of course, for this to work, we need backup from our external contractors. We have new SLAs in place with all our contractors, and I think in particular of importance, this year we're going to have 2 service centres in the Boulevard. So last year we just had 1 that serviced the entire series. This year we're going to have 1 for the North Hall and 1 for the South Hall. And I think just as importantly, we're going to have a separate desk for UBM staff. What we found last year is that customers and UBM staff were in the same queue, which wasn't obviously much use to you as customers. We've also going to have, all our contractors are committed to more staff on site, and in particular they're going to have a new queue busting system. Again, what we found with some of the on-site queries, quite often the queues are being held up by complex queries, and there were people in the queue who just probably wanted a light bulb changing or just a very minor query that we can deal with very quickly. So staff will be going up and down the queues for the service centres to make sure we're dealing with the really quick things really quickly. So that just gives you a bit of a flavour of what we're doing with operations. You know, we've listened to you, we know that was an issue for 2014. All I can do at this point is give you our assurances that we've done everything we can to make sure we have a robust plan in place to improve that for 15. I'm now going to talk you briefly, and it's difficult to go into a lot of detail on each brand, but just give you a flavour of some of the things that we're doing for each brand and some of the features and seminar content that we're doing, and then Ruth will talk about how we're going to market it. I'll talk you through mainly what's new. So across IFSEC, we have a brand new product demonstration theatre with all the latest trends being demonstrated. We have a new innovation arena, which is going to be in association with Benchmark Innovation Awards. So this is to address the issue that visitors want to see more innovation at the series. We've got a TAFCON theatre again for IP training for installers. We're running the Safe Cities Theatre and Lounge this year, and what's new is we're running a Euralarm mini conference on day 2, which is absolutely key for attracting government visitors for IFSEC. We've completely changed the Installer Live proposition, so we've got a huge proposition for our installers this year. We're working very closely with the NSI on a platinum ticket scheme. We've got an NSI club lounge and a networking area at the show. We're running the garage, which is about fleet management. We're running a tool shed, which is about installers just getting tools they need to do their job. And we've got a networking bar for installers. And we've got something called a gadget zone, which is a chance for installers to come and play with latest kit, which is what they've told us they want to do. So a big proposition to make sure we're delivering on installers in 2015. And then finally, for IFSEC to deliver end users, we have a new keynote program around thought leadership. So, for example, we've got Dr. Simon Morse talking about cybersecurity. We're covering state of the nation, sort of future trend sessions. We're covering Internet of Things. We're covering smart buildings, intelligent buildings. We've got Jim McHale from Memori, a research consultancy. So we're making sure that the content is very fresh and very current to attract end users. That's IFSEC. Those of you who are here from FireX will probably know that the big move this year is we're moving FireX back to be alongside IFSEC. This will have a positive impact on IFSEC, but particularly big impact on FireX. So it's back to kind of its more natural home to be alongside FireX. Similarly, we've got a refresh of features. We've got a brand new seminar theatre with new content aligned for both installers and end users. The Installer Live proposition I've talked you through on IFSEC is actually a joint feature between IFSEC and FireX, so they'll benefit from that as well. And once again, we've got the FPA zone, ASFP passive protection zone, and the LPCB Red Book Pavilion zone running at FireX. Just about got those out. SHE, very exciting news on SHE. I mean, there's a lot happening on Safe and Health Expo this year. Probably the lead piece on that is we're running Health and Safety Week. This is a week we're running for the whole week when the show is on. And there's a lot of stuff going on around Health and Safety Week, but these are probably the 3 things that stand out. We're running an extreme safety session with Ranulph Fiennes. We're running a health symposium and a Women in Safety forum. And then finally, we're running a petition to support a particular cause. And the cause that we're looking to support is the number of deaths that are happening in construction at the Qatar World Cup, which is something that's very important to SHP Magazine, very important to us, and a cause that we want to support as part of Health and Safety Week at SHE. The IOSH conference delegates, we got feedback that they weren't spending enough time on the show floor. So this year they have much longer lunch breaks, and we're doing VIP tours so they can come and meet all you as exhibitors. To make sure we're getting the right balance of attracting North and Midlands visitors and South visitors, we've got a dual-streamed content program that's covering both manufacturing and construction. We've also got various train discounts and car parking incentives and carpooling tools to make sure we're getting our visitors from Midlands and the North. We've got a new global meetings program. And we're making sure on SHE we're working even closer than ever with the associations. So with ROSPA, with IOSH, we've got the new BSc International Risk Management Academy, the BSIF Innovation Zone, again, to deal with innovation. So lots happening around SHE. And then last, by no means least, Facility Show and Service Management Expo. This is where we put a lot of the major features towards the back of the event to help aid traffic flow if you're part of that event. We've got a brand new BIFM Career Zone this year, which is providing advice and workshops on people's careers. We've got a new keynote theatre, which I'll talk to you about in the next slide. New bar, VIP lounge for networking, because facilities visitors told us that networking was really, really important at the facilities show. We've got a new facilities show seminar theatre, a Meet the Buyers programme. For service management, we've got the Field Solutions Seminar Theatre. And again, to address innovation, we've got a series of innovation trails and awards. Now, that's only a brief overview of what each brand is doing. But we wanted one final thing, which we think is a kind of cherry on the cake. We've vastly improved, I think, the proposition for each brand, but we wanted just one more thing. And this year, we've invested in 3 high-level keynote speakers. So Chris Hoy, Baroness Karen Brady, and so Ranulph Fiennes will all be speaking at the Protection Management Series, one each day. And the idea of this is just to it's that kind of final push for people to come to the show. The kind of waverers who don't always come, it's that final reason to come. And ultimately, all these features and everything that we're doing is about attracting more visitors so they spend more time with you as exhibitors and spend more time buying. Just as a final point on customer experience, so as you know, we had a huge focus on visitor experience last year. But again, we want to improve on that. We want to make the venue less confusing, so we're going to improve the level of signage. We want to make sure the shows get greater identity, particularly a facility show and we felt weren't strong enough as brands. So you'll find much stronger branding in the entrances. We've got much stronger colour carpeting, much stronger signage to deal with that. The big stand needs stand numbers so that people can find them. There's a big feedback we got from our visitors. We need more seating. This year we're going to have 2,000 seats available in the boulevard. There was only 1,500 last year. Jeremy will touch on that. Less queues for food. There's a lot of feedback we got from visitors. Again, Jeremy will show you how we're dealing with that. And then finally, Showmakers 2.0. So we're pushing ahead with our plans to have more Showmakers this year. And we've got a brand new app from a brand new supplier, which includes 2 really clever features. One, GPS functionality, so visitors can actually see where they are at the series. Makes it a lot easier for them to navigate to whatever stand they're looking for. And secondly, it has a desktop planning tool, which allows visitors to plan in advance of the show what they want to do on their desktop, which also then downloads onto their app, so they can use that when they're at the show to plan their time more effectively. Okay, well, that just gives you an overview of the series and the product. Now I'm just going to hand you over to Ruth, who'll show you how we're going to market the product, and then we'll open up to any questions.